One of the more interesting stories floating around the headlines right now is a couple of judges that have gotten themselves arrested for helping out illegal aliens. Renata Castro's back on the James Show from USA for All. It's an immigration firm. Renata, what are they facing here? What are the penalties? Harboring, like the one guy had an illegal immigrant in his guest house. That's illegal?
Well, I guess you have to see whether or not this person knew the undocumented alien had no papers, whether he has a duty to report them. I imagine a single civilian is encumbered with questioning whether someone is evading taxes and reporting that person. I think that the burden of proof here is very high, and that unfortunately everyone is jumping to assumptions in regards to whether or not these are crimes, because the U.S. government currently is pushing civilians to engage in what the government's failing to do, which it wants simply because it doesn't have enough agents.
Yeah, so the reason why I have a question mark past this is I've lived in apartments where the guy that crossed from me was clearly an illegal immigrant. He was able.
How do you know why? I'm sorry, but what makes it clear? I'm just asking because I think that's a valid question.
I asked. Did I lose you, Renata? Your phone drop off?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah, I asked him, Alejandro. Yeah, are you illegal? I mean, it's kind of obvious he doesn't speak any English, and so someone that's from here, they would pick up something.
There's. The reason I think it's important we have this discussion on the air is because there are several Americans who don't speak English because they've never lived in the United States. And I think in this case, you may be right because Alejandro confirmed he doesn't have papers, but we should never assume a person doesn't have papers just because of the way they look or their inability to speak English.
Well, maybe not assume, but if they can't speak English and they're from Mexico, it's probably more than half of them, I would think, are illegal. It's not like once you've been here for one or two generations, all of them speak English.
I know a lot of people who speak English and who don't have status, and I know a lot of people who do have status and who don't speak English.
Agreed.
As a lawyer, I'll tell you what my main concern is. My main concern is that into a witch hunt where individuals in general, particularly Americans, are going to be committing crimes because they will be trying to cite people for an arrest when they don't have the power to do that. And then the federal government is just going to abandon these individuals to respond to these state charges. I'm more concerned about the everyday guy, Americans that are working and maybe committing a crime, trying to arrest as we fake ICE arrests. And these people probably think they're doing the country a good thing. Imagine having your life completely destroyed because you're committing a crime you don't even know you're committing and you think someone is undocumented. I am concerned about preserving the law and making sure people don't get hurt because of the wrong narrative. I think that this is so imperative at this point because if we start looking at who looks undocumented, there was an American citizen who was detained for 10 days in Florida last week because he did not look American. So imagine if one of us is arrested because we don't look American. So I hope this is not overly passionate, but I really want to make sure that the everyday Joe is not hurt in the middle of this political battle because at the end of the day, this is not about due process. This is really about making the United States a better country for the people who are here, who are deserving a letter.
All right, Renata, I think we got most of that, but your phone's driving me so nuts. I'm going to cut it like a minute short here, but thank you very much for coming on. I was just kind of concerned because if, you have someone that you're renting a house to and they're illegal, could you get in trouble? Do they have to prove intent like Renata was talking about? That something I thought might concern some landlords around here, or small business owners. Would you be in trouble for harboring an illegal if he was working on one of your crews or whatnot? Just wanted to fill that out a little bit. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. WeatherCon is tomorrow. It's finally here. Blue Ribbon Roofing's putting on the 2025 WeatherCon with WBAP and Fox 4. It's at the Frontiers of Flight Museum tomorrow morning. I'm going to be out there. I'm going to get there about 9. You don't have to get there before it opens. But when I got there last year, I got there right before it opened, and there was a pretty long line. So if you want to be first in line, maybe you have to get there a little before 9:30 like I'm going to. It lasts until 1:30, but you can meet me, and Casey Bartholomew will be there, and Hal J, and of course Brad Barton's going to be there. The chief meteorologist from Fox 4, Dan Henry's going to be there. And here's the best part. It's free. Absolutely free. And there's so much cool stuff for the kids. I mean, the Frontiers of Flight Museum being free is the reason enough to bring your kiddos. But they have these science demonstrations and these guys who are real good at keeping kids entertained. You know how hard it is to keep a bunch of 8-year-olds paying attention to you while you're doing something sciencey. Well, they have a few of those set up, face painting, some booths for the kids, a bunch of free giveaways from sponsors. And, of course, Blue Ribbon Roofing. You can come out and take a picture if you've ever wanted to meet John from Blue Ribbon Roofing because you've heard him in the commercials. You know, we'll all be there having a good time. Frontiers of Flight Museum tomorrow, April 26th. They say it's at 6911 Lemon Avenue. But guys, can we not put this in my commercials? No one memorizes addresses anymore. You just ask your phone. Say, give me directions to Frontiers of Flight Museum. And it'll say, sure, here we go. And then you follow the blue line to Blue Ribbon Roofing's 2025 WeatherCon tomorrow morning. Coming up next, the legal analyst for the James Show, Jeremy Rosenthal. We'll ask him, as a lawyer, some of those similar questions that I was just asking Renata. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Jeremy Rosenthal, the legal analyst on the James Show, joins us, and I have some questions about these judges that got themselves arrested. First off, the guy in Las Cruces, he got arrested for having an illegal immigrant stay in his guest house. I mean, I guess that sounds illegal, but explain that one to me. Do you have to know it's illegal before you're in trouble?
Well, I'm going to have to learn a little bit more about that one because, yes, if you're harboring them and intentionally doing things that are obviously overtly throwing people off of somebody's scent that's wanted or has a warrant or something like that, it's a problem. If you're renting an apartment to somebody, a landlord doesn't have to see your documents, right? So it could be that you're just releasing an apartment to somebody. So we'd have to see a little more detail on that one to see just how, if or how nefarious that one is. I would suspect that there's going to be a little more there. But yeah, the short answer is there has to be some type of knowledge prerequisite for that to cross a line.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this guy knew. He was letting him stay there for free. Oh, why are these people falling all over themselves to keep illegals from getting deported?
I think we're going to learn more about this one as it goes along. And you know, you got to be. First off, it's just a bad idea for a judge to be kind of engaged in that. My understanding is he's a magistrate. I don't know exactly what that means in Las Cruces.
What does it mean in English?
Well, in Texas, it's Latin. So,
hey, good point. Good point.
Yeah. So I'll ask my daughter. She's taken Latin. But a magistrate in Texas is sort of a lower level judge who is not necessarily elected. They tend to be appointed, and they tend to handle a lot of the busy work that the more senior judges don't want to do. They set a lot of bonds. Judges can delegate things to them. So we don't know how high ranking that guy is. And again, is this an intent to is this an intent to defraud the federal government or protect somebody who evade arrest? And again, you used to see, I remember in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, used to see politicians that would employ somebody that was undocumented, and it would be a big scandal.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I'm having a hard time differentiating that from the one in Las Cruces.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this other one seems to be a little more cut and dry here. Pam Bondi had spelled out some of the details on how a judge was hearing the case and the plaintiff in the case, an illegal. When ICE came to her court to pick him up, she went out, screamed at him, kicked him out of the court, and then took her back into private chambers, gave him the private exit, and let him escape. That's got to be illegal. What is she facing on that? What's that called?
Well, that would be probably that would be obstruction, and that would be assisting or harboring a fugitive. That's potentially what that would be, and that really brings up a lot of really interesting point, James. So one, I'll tell you this, and as far as the judges that I know that I practice in front of in Collin and Dallas and in Tarrant, they don't like people getting arrested at court for any reason. They want people to come to court. If court were, it's hard enough to get people's participation, and they don't like the fear factor. They don't like somebody being afraid and not coming to court because they're concerned about an arrest. So most judges and most magistrates will say, please not here. Please don't do this here. This is not what this is for. Now, federal agents have a long history, and ICE agents have a long history of picking up people who are undocumented at probation when they go to their probation officer, and they see that there. Now, when you are a federal officer, and this brings up an interesting point, in a courtroom in Texas, and I imagine in Minnesota or Wisconsin,
right.
In that courtroom, the judge is the king, and the judge can direct people to be arrested. The judge can direct movement in that court. They can direct people to sit down, stand up, do all these things. And when you have a federal officer in there, what leverage or power do you have over those federal officers? I don't know the clear-cut answer to that. And if somebody who is an illegal alien is in her presence, who has the right and the legal authority to direct that? That's a really hard question. And you would think that, well, you've got the supremacy clause. So you have arguments that no, it's the federal agents that can tell that can direct the traffic in there. But I'm not so certain about that. So yes, if she is harboring or trying to actively assist somebody evade arrest, that's a problem. I would be, if I'm her lawyers, I'm a lot more scared of this if she said something dishonest to the federal officers, if she lied, or if she tried to pull the wool over their eyes and say, go out that way. Instead of, you know what, officers, you're not actually going to do that. He's walking out of this courtroom. You want to go arrest him? Go do it in the parking lot. If it was something like that, that would be a lot more defensible. But I'll be very, very curious to get more details from this.
All right, there he is, Jeremy Rosenthal. You can get him as your own lawyer, should you need one. TexasDefenseFirm.com. Thank you, sir.
Have a great weekend.
All right, there he is, Jeremy Rosenthal. My last guest, my honored guest, WBAP Chief Meteorologist Brad Barton's back on the James Show because WeatherCon's tomorrow. Welcome back, Brad.
Hey, thank you, James. Appreciate it.
So this is your chance to be the belle of the ball, the star of the show. How much do you look forward to WeatherCon? Is this like your Super Bowl?
Yeah, it kind of is. We've done this for probably at least the last 10 years, and maybe longer than that. I've kind of lost track. But it's one day where everybody from WBAP comes out and says hello to the general public all across the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and we talk about severe weather. We talk about safety. We talk about how to keep up on weather changes and things like that. We're going to have Fox 4 out there with a green screen. You kids can, even adults, can do your own weather forecast like you're on TV, which is pretty neat. We're going to have Tim Marshall, who's just an extraordinary storm spotter, meteorologist, and structural engineer. He's from Flower Mound, and he's the biggest chaser in this area right now. And we have Hal J coming out. So, how you go wrong with that?
Well, he's the guy that everyone was asking to take selfies with last year.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what goes on in upstairs in the Frontiers of Flight Museum? There's a theater room, and y'all do presentations there. Now, I was having to work last year, being at the tables and rotating around and whatever, so I didn't get to see some of the presentations. What happens in that room?
Well, usually we have some slideshows, PowerPoint presentations, maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes at most, and we show storm damage, we show tornadoes, we show how to tell if you're going to be under a threat of severe weather during the day or the next 3 or 4 days, all those things, and we tell you don't ever park under an overpass in the middle of a storm.
Talk about the storm chaser guys. They seem to get a lot of good reviews. People think that their stuff is cool.
Oh, yeah. Tim Marshall has some really, really great images, video, and stills of tornadoes that he has tracked and covered and chased for years and years and years. And he has the stuff that's also right up to the last minute. He probably has stuff from just the storms that were a couple of weeks ago. So he's always a great presentation. The Weather Service meteorologist in charge of weather warnings, Jennifer Dunn, will be there as well. And with Dan Henry and myself on the stage, you can ask us any questions you want for about an hour. We'll take questions and answers from the overall audience.
What's one question you get every single time?
When is it going to stop raining?
Okay, that's kind of, you get to ask the impossible questions, right? People ask, is it going to snow at my house? Well,
Right.
How on earth could Brad possibly know?
Right.
All right, so there's also a lot of stuff for the kiddos. The science demonstrations. I watched it because I have young kids, and I'm amazed at these guys that can take a big group of like 24, maybe 30 kids and actually keep their attention and not have them, straying off or talking amongst themselves. So I was really pleased with the educational aspect aimed at children last year.
Yeah, that's really extraordinary to get kids involved in the weather. So many kids are interested in weather. They hear these tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings. They're not always sure what they mean and where it comes from. And it's an area of anxiety among some young kids. So this kind of demystifies that, and it lets them be in control of how much information they can take in and then what they can do with that information in terms of being safe in their own home, finding a good tornado shelter if that's what they're trying to do, or to stay safe when they're on the road, for that matter.
All right, so what if there's a junior high or high school kid that's listening in the backseat of their parents' car right now who's thinking about being a weatherman when they grow up? How would you steer them in the right direction, Brad Barton?
Well, this is a great time to go because the Frontiers of Flight Museum will be free to everyone who comes during the WBAP event. So from 9:30 tomorrow morning to 1:30 tomorrow afternoon, the entire Frontiers of Flight Museum will be free. It has a great kids section, great play section as well for kids, but also lots of great stuff. If you've never been there, by the way, it is an outstanding museum, and it's probably the only major antiquities aircraft museum in the area now. So it's really, there's a space capsule from, I guess, Gemini or possibly the Apollo program. It's got some great stuff out there.
I mean, if they really did go to space. Thank you very much. This is WBAP's chief meteorologist, Brad Barton. He's going to be the star of WeatherCon tomorrow, brought to you by Blue Ribbon Roofing. Thank you very much, Brad.
We look forward to seeing y'all out there.
All right, go get some sleep. You got a long day tomorrow, sir. All right, I'm going to leave you with a viral video that was pulled from I don't know what TV show this is, but the actor is also in Always Sunny. He plays Dennis in Always Sunny, but this didn't look like an episode of Always Sunny. I just labeled this, what it's like buying tea in 2025.
Hi. One herbal tea, please.
Which flavor?
Jasmine?
Sorry, I meant for the boba.
The little spheres of tapioca and sugar?
The tea comes with boba.
Well, it doesn't, because I see the tea right there and I see the boba over there. So why don't we just not combine them? Yeah? So I'll take the tea without the covert diabetes delivery mechanism, please.
The system won't let me do that.
Okay. Yeah, no, fine. One boba, please. We'll call it a mental health day treat. Self-care, right? Isn't that what people call it whenever they need an excuse to do whatever they want?
I don't know.
Yeah, no, of course you don't. Of course you don't. One chewy sugar tea, please.
All right. You can scan the code.
Why?
Because the code takes you to the app.
That's 2 apps today. Yeah. Got apps for everything, Even though I'm already talking to the person that could just take my order right here, but I got to download an app, right? How about this? I have cash. You have tea. Why don't we just streamline things?
We don't take cash, though.
Yeah. How about cards? Take cards?
Yes.
Oh, great.
But there is a $10 minimum. There's no minimum on the app, though.
Sorry, it's not your fault. You didn't create the system.
Oh, don't you just feel that in your bones? Every time someone asks me to download an app to order something when I'm standing in their store, I feel like the battle scene from Braveheart's about to start. I'm just going to pull out a broadsword. I'm going to start lopping off heads. I do not want to download your app. I want a burrito now. Damn it. All right. Just thought you would enjoy that mutual frustration that is ordering pretty much anything in Uptown Dallas in 2025. You go out to Bug Tussle, you're lucky if they take cards at all. They're still taking cash, or you could probably pay in bushels of corn or something. All right, that's going to do it for the James Show today. Stick around. Mark Levin's coming up next. Don't forget, I'll be at WeatherCon tomorrow. Come on out and say hi. Judge me based on my appearance. This has been the James Show. I'm James Parker, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.